and start bringing money in.
Mr. Dennis?
I have two questions, really.
Okay.
Question number one, this seems like a rather complicated scenario that you have presented. That's a little difficult for me to follow. Would you extend to the citizens of our town at the pre-town meeting an written explanation of what is going to take place? Because somewhere between now and when we have the special town meeting, I think the citizens should be allowed to look over this information. You spoke well, you spoke quickly, you covered a tremendous amount of information that's very hard for myself mentally to really fit together. So to me, literature should be presented to the citizens of the town, hopefully at the pre-town meeting and also at the special town meeting so that we can vote wisely. That's one thing. Second question was, seeing that you're projecting borrowing money, would this require a reworking of the recapitulation sheet?
No.
Because you're borrowing a sum of money, and I'm not familiar with the recapitulation sheet. Previous years, when you had a town meeting to borrow money, that had to be shown on the recapitulation sheet.
Right.
Are we saying that you don't have to show that now?
Correct.
Do you think we have to rework it?
No, the reason is because there was an article on the annual town meeting for the purpose of short-term borrowing, should the need arise.
Yes, but that's an article that we have every year.
Correct.
And that article is intended to cover
Tax
anticipated
anticipation.
money coming in for things that are part of the levy limit and part of receipts.
Correct.
There was a separate line for loans.
This is a,
That's a different, that article has a different purpose.
I understand what you're saying, but be aware that the reason for this loan is to make up for the property tax receipts that we're not getting yet. We're going to get them, but we're not getting them yet. So it's a tax anticipation note. And once we receive the tax that we're anticipating, we'll pay the note off. And there's money in the levy to provide for that.
I would suspect, and see, I'm concerned that we as yet have not been able to close the books on F12. And with all this wheeling and dealing, you have to be very concerned that eventually you're going to have to close the book on F13. And if you don't close the book on F13, it's going to create a tremendous problem in doing your financial planning for F14, which you're in the process of doing now.
Well, understood, but beware that we have to do the planning for 14 before we can close 13. We have to plan for 14 before we can close 13.
Well, no, just the reverse, isn't it, truly?
No.
You have to close your books, so you're going to end up knowing what your certified free cash is. No.
That's 12.
That's 12. Yeah, but
Right, we've got to get 12 done first. First steps first
Yeah.
is to
12, 13,
close
13, 14.
12.
But
That is your first step.
But if what you were suggesting, if I understood you correctly, unless I didn't hear you right, I thought you said we needed to close 13 before we plan for 14. Can't do that. 13 doesn't end
No,
till
I
June.
should, right, but before you set the tax rate, you do.
Not for 13.
No.
13's not gonna end until, June 30th. 2014 begins.
When do you anticipate closing the book for F12?
That's
It's in, the town meeting is part of all of that. DOR has the final FY12 filing. They're waiting for the town meeting.
Perhaps, I wouldn't mind helping out on this, but maybe we need to draft a executive summary statement that basically describes the situation we're in, how we figured it out, and what the plan is to get out of it. It would be something that somebody can read and then ask questions.
Right.
Fair enough.
That makes sense?
Yes.
Love to see it on paper.
Yeah.
Right.
By the way,
No.
just to add on, we haven't involved us on the $700,000 loan that the Board of Selectmen has voted to. We haven't done any borrowing or paying any interest on the $700,000 loan that the Board of Selectmen voted to do.
The first payment is due
May.
May.
I think it's
Well,
Approximately
Very small.
$14,000.
It's a $14,000 payment in May.
In May.
Where's
That's
that
when
money
that comes
coming
due.
from?
Budget.
That's gonna have to probably be a special town meeting article within the annual budget. So that's gonna have to come.
Right. Okay, so anyway,
I had just a couple of comments.
Yep.
Looking at your estimates, it looks as if there'll be money to get through March.
Yep.
Okay. Can you come back with a closer estimate
Sure.
with March 11th? Would that meeting be too late in order to get the borrowing done?
No, we just would not be borrowing before March 11th.
Right.
The plan was to borrow March 1st through May 15th or something.
Right.
I suppose we could borrow March 15th through May 30th. That'd be cutting it really close.
Right. I know, but. we're not-
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, it's just, we're not gonna have another meeting until March 11th.
Okay. So I'll tighten up my numbers and I'll get an area involved, get her buy off
Right.
on it.
Yeah, and just get an estimate from her time-wise, how long it's gonna take to do a turnaround the bond. Because that takes time as well.
Yeah, I think she said, she could turn that pretty quickly. I'll give you better numbers.
Mr. Dennis,
The portion of the $700,000 loan, that included on your recap sheet?
I can't testify. I think it is, but I
The
can't
accountant is
testify.
not
Someone
here.
has to know.
You account,
Very
of course.
close.
Well, the
I don't do the
accountant would know.
recap sheet, so
I'm trying to think where that goes. Hold on a second.
That's gonna be our 13th recap sheet.
No, you don't have to answer me right now, I just, no. It's very important for the future finances of
Absolutely.
this town. I'm not trying to
No?
cause problems, I'm trying to help.
I think you're asking fair questions. I didn't come prepared for that. I came prepared to ask the board for, you know, for my support to try to borrow this money so we
It's
can
just
run the
that,
town.
you know, the only way we're going to get the faith of the community and the taxpayers is when everything is out in the open.
I think we all agree to that.
I think we all have faith. So, you know, I'm getting old and my mind is slowing down. About, I have questions.
Go ahead.
I'm not hearing any answers.
I think the answer I offered was to address your questions, that we generate an executive summary, write it down, that explains how this issue came about, what we've done to resolve it, what we propose to do to work it out. And have that ready for you so that when you go to special town meeting, the pre-town meeting, you have that ahead of time so you can read it over and ask at pre-town meeting, whomever it is you need to ask questions.
See,
Does that make sense?
Like the $700,000 that, never in my memory have I ever remember
Yes, it is.
borrowing $700,000 that didn't come up to a vote at a town meeting.
Well,
And I read very carefully the article where we voted $1.9 million.
yes,
It's a real stretch, and I can imagine where someone can imagine that gave us the okay to borrow the 700.
right.
Well, that's a stretch.
Well,
As if we want to have an open picture to the people of the community.
right.
It's a real stretch
Out of the 1.9.
We
imagination.
never borrowed.
Jeff, what's special, what's pre-con?
Wednesday,
In the
27th.
Kiva.
Kiva.
And
That's 7.
7?
Let me double check.
I can go check.
Charlie, what time's pre-town Wednesday?
6:30.
6:30?
6:30, yeah.
Okay, so the pre-town meeting is at the Kiva Wednesday at 6:30. So,
So, I just want to address Mr. Dennis here. It's important to me that you understand where I'm coming from. I will offer any,
You've got one tough job. I
No, no.
School committee,
no
so-
complaints.
I knew the job was dangerous when I took it.
I told you.
Travel everywhere.
is there anything tomorrow?
But the point I'm trying to make
Oh, yeah,
is,
the,
I will assist however I can to prepare this document. Understand that these things occurred before I came
Oh, I,
on board.
hey.
So, but that doesn't get me
You
off
know
track.
what happened while I was sleeping?
Exactly.
For Bob.
So I'm just saying that I'll do the best I can to provide you what you need.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone needs it.
Yeah, I think an executive summary is a perfect resolution to it, and I think to Mr., what's your name?
Mr. Dennis.
Dennis, Mr. Dennis, I think to his point, I mean, the whole truth should be out there.
Should
So
be.
if we're making a vote, then we should be informed and educated of the whole picture, not,
Lady, this is what the group was saying, and then we haven't got no answers, we get stalled
well,
on
but
and on.
he's offering to provide that to us, so.
This is the
Why
first
wasn't
time
provided
I've heard.
before? We had
Okay.
leadership.
All right, well, let's give Dan a chance to
Yeah,
provide the
I agree.
executive summary. I mean, it's on video,
Anything else?
it's on recording, so.
A lot of stuff on the
We're gonna move on if you don't mind. If you wanna discuss your discussion, go out in the hall.
So I'm gonna come back on the 11th with this one.
Yeah,
Good guy.
Thank
that'd be
you.
great.
Thanks for your time, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay. Old business from the board? Before we go on to those articles. Old business, is that why you folks are here?
Well,
Jeff, is that going to be old business or new business?
that's a article for town meeting, that one,
So that'll be new
that's
business.
Okay.
under the new business.
Hi.
Hi, we're here as part of the citizens for McLean Hospital coming in,
Yep.
Baldwinville Road, Templeton. We have a few facts that we would like to show and see what the town is actually going to do to help us, or if nobody's concerned because it's not in their backyard.
Okay.
We have gone to Martha Copley's office, Senator Brewer, what was the other one? Yeah. We're working with them to see if they're gonna help us since we,
Ann doesn't represent us anymore.
well, her office is,
It's Denise Andrews
yeah, her
now.
office is aware and
Yep.
is working on it. A few of the things that we want to talk about is the safety issues. Because at the planning board, we're not allowed to bring up a lot unless it's plan related. You know, we've done a lot of research to the comparable properties that they own in this area, meaning the one in Princeton, Fernside, and the one in Ashburnham, Naugatuck. And we are much smaller and in a residential neighborhood than they are. They are on 8 acres in Princeton, plus they have land, conservation land that abuts the property everywhere. And they are bigger square footage wise as well. And they only service 8 to 10 patients. And they're going to be there for a 30-day minimum at $1,800 a day. Here in Templeton, they are only going to stay 10 to 14 days. You're going to have 22 residents in a little over an acre lot where they're going to be able to have their own cars come and go. And it's just, and the one in Ashburnham is large as well, in more land with less patients. It just doesn't, you know, sense of how you're gonna fit that many, and they're staying, so that is a huge number of traffic coming in and out of this town every year. And they're only staying 10 to 14 days, and they're coming from detox here.
Right. I know, after you came before us, 2 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, I forget which, just all blurs together, I did some more check, looking into the whole thing, and I'm not opposed to what they're doing, but I am opposed to the number. Like you just said, the number of people, 22 people in that small area concerns me.
Yeah.
I don't know that we can do anything about it, but I plan on being here tomorrow night to question it. The meeting's here tomorrow, right? Yep. 6:30?
Somebody tells me they're thinking of buying a swimming pool, put six units up there on Reservoir Street. Is that for sale? It's in the process. Number 6.
Oh, the pool off?
That's right, they
Boneville
got
Road?
plenty of
I
land.
heard that too.
They got plenty of land, they got all in the front for the cars and
Yep.
everything else they had to. 6 apartments in the swimming pool. In the house.
Yeah, and
Lovely. I mean, this is going to affect.
is that in addition to the one that they're talking about?
It's something separate.
It's a different, it's a
Different
This
group?
is a psychiatric drug treatment
Right.
center. I believe that is gonna be like a
that's
housing.
low-income housing.
Oh,
It's
so
gonna
that's
go in,
totally
so,
different.
you know, this is a residential neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to affect our property value. And at the meetings, Ed Blanchard, the owner of the property, said he did research of the other 2 properties that are owned by McLean Hospital, and it did not affect property values near there. But it's not comparable. They're not a stone throw from houses. And he did not go on assessed prices, he went on appraised prices. And assessed prices, when I go to sell a house, this is what it's worth, this is what I can list it for. If you're going to look at a house and you see that you have a drug and mental rehab in that neighborhood, you're gonna think twice before you buy it. And these people are gonna have their own cars, so they're free to come and go. I think the selectmen should look into, each facility has their own handbook that says how they operate. The handbooks that I have read, and I have even downloaded an application to admit into there to see, they self-medicate. You have to be able to self-medicate yourself to go there. Meaning they do not have to have an LPN or an RN there because they don't need to administer medication. So some of the forms of the drugs are opiates they're gonna have that is listed in here. I mean, that really does not, and you have 22 people that could possibly take that. They're using the Dover Act to get in. And in that, it states that they cannot have any criminal background to use it. But asking the hospital and them saying themselves, they do not do query checks on these people. So we don't know what type of background they have. That could bring in sex offenders right in our neighborhood, in between 2 schools, my backyard, the bus stop, and we will have no known knowledge of that because they're only here 10 to 14 days. They're not here long enough to have to register, and they're here under an education cost. And it's just not, you know, the town really needs to look into that because we're gonna have issues. And so far, it seems like, you know, the planning board, you know, they have the Dover Act, and nobody feels like anything can be done because they're using that. But it has been appealed.
It has been
And it
successfully.
has
And it's won.
Successfully.
Yes.
And under the circumstances that they're using the Dover Act, you know, the Dover Amendment, it states clearly, it's 841 pages of the Dover Amendment, and it states that they should not have a criminal background, but if the hospital's not doing a current check, they're not gonna know what the criminal background is. I spoke with the president of Plains Hospital, and I asked them the procedure and policy in admitting patients, and they said, they asked the patients clearly, do you have a criminal background? The patient says no, they take the word for it, and that's it. And that's what was told me from the legal department in Plains Hospital. I have a huge problem with that. I know you're supposed to know your neighbor better than anybody else, but we're bringing in 22 patients in and out, over 700 people a day, and also the insurance information, they're saying that it's supposed to be private insurance.
Yeah.
They accept Mass Health.
Yeah, at the first meeting, when we asked the hospital, they said, it's not your typical roofer or plumber. These are a different class of people, which is a crock. Whatever you are, you work. And the one in Princeton is private pay, $1,800 a day, minimum day 30. We don't even know what is going to be here because they don't have a handbook. Downloading their application to be admitted there, it's very simple. What drugs are you on now? What insurance do you have? And how do you assume to pay if your insurance runs out? And we don't provide transportation for you when your time's up. We can take you to a train station. That's it. That's how it is to get in there.
It's something about Mass Health.
Yeah, they take Mass Health.
At $1,800 a day.
No, that's
Mass Health won't cover it.
Yeah, right.
So,
What was the other thing though about the Dover Act that they needed to hold a public hearing?
It's just-
It's an 841-page document, so they just come in through the planning board and the public,
Public
the
wasn't-
community doesn't need to know that they're coming in under the Dover Act. We don't have a right. I mean, I know I for one live on Mountain View Street, and I'm with Dana. I'm concerned of what that's going to do to our property value. And we were told in one of the planning board meetings that it's their right to come into the town under the Dover Act. Well, what about our rights? I've lived here for 23 years. I've invested in my property, and now I'm going to get, crap for my property because the town's letting some facility that might, I don't know if it's gonna affect our properties. No one's really telling us, we're being told that it's not gonna, but I don't know. I, for one, if I was looking at a house, I'd have second thoughts about buying a house near a drug rehab place, hello? And in between the schools, that's the other question to Dana's point. We don't know who these people are, they don't have to register. Pedophiles and,
And they have.
Virginia?
yeah, we should.
The Dover Act also, the Dover Amendment also states that the program has to be,
Educational.
the majority of the program has to be educational. So what you need to do is ask for their curriculum.
We asked. I called.
yeah.
They're hanging their hat.
They didn't
We
give
don't
you,
have a handbook right now.
they don't have a curriculum,
Correct.
They won't,
They
no,
won't.
then they're claiming they're an educational.
Yeah.
their only concern is we're through the planning board. We're dealing with them to get in, and that's it.
Through the
And they're
Dover Act.
saying these people are already paying for detox. They're talking to the workers there. They already ripped up the rugs, preparing for rubber
Oh,
flooring.
right.
So,
Now-
that's not a rehab. That's a detox.
The other issue is, you have to understand, first of all, the planning board has a specific
Yeah.
thing that they have to do. They can't get
Exactly.
involved with.
That's why we need to get the town and the selectmen involved, because we can't keep bugging him and Carl and saying, what's this, when it's not necessarily a planning board issue. And, I went to the Board of Health, I'm like, look, you're gonna put a gazebo up off of my kid's bedroom window that I had to specifically ask in the meeting, where is your designated smoking area? Because reading their other handbooks, they have one. Is your gazebo that's in your plans good? Oh, yes. I go to the Board of Health, I'm like, I got a problem with that. I have a sick kid, I'm gonna have secondhand smoke coming from 22 people plus staff. Not to mention their conversation coming in, well, the wind blows the other way, you'll be fine.
Okay,
All
I'm
right.
still not done talking.
Sorry.
Your best bet, probably from people that I've talked to, is to wait and appeal it. If they give them a right to go ahead with it, which they pretty much have to, if all of the plans are correct, they have to just give it to them. But then somebody's got to appeal it.
It's the attorney.
And once these are appealed, now, and I've been reading for all the ones that have been going through the court, once it's appealed, then they start backing off a little, because they'll have to give you curriculum and all the things that you're asking for.
He had his hand up first.
John Butts on 24 Sunrise Drive. Now, the Dover Amendment was enacted back in the 50s to protect organizations such as the drug rehabilitation from unfair zoning bylaws and prejudice bylaws. Templeton doesn't have that. Templeton has zoning bylaws in place. I'm sure Kirk can back me up on that. And it's 2 acres for a facility such as they want to construct. Or it's 5 acres for a hospital, all right? we don't have unfair zoning acts. And back in 2010, Judge Connors, through the Supreme Judicial Court, actually stopped a drug rehabilitation in Alston. I actually believe. And the reason that he gave was they came to the town to actually build a drug rehabilitation center. They grabbed the first piece of profitable property, okay, without looking at any other property in the town. Now, I personally am not opposed to a drug rehabilitation place. Society actually probably needs it, okay? But you don't put it down the end of a street with 20 homes, children with 22 patients, they're actually self-medicating themselves. Well, they already have a proven track record of not being able to self-medicate, okay? The fact that they're coming in and telling us that they're just going to put it here without checking out other pieces of property. There's plenty of pieces of property in Templeton where they could actually put a facility, okay? And, you know, I would probably back that because it actually brings in taxpayer dollars. It brings in professional people. It's for the community, but putting it into a place like this, I've been to a couple of the master planning objectives you had where you put, you know, school here, school there. I have never seen a master planning when they put the drug rehabilitation center in the middle of a subdivision. That's crazy. The Dover Amendment is their protection. You guys are our protection. So I think we come to you for either to say, are you supporting us? And if you do support us, would you maybe help us go through the appeals process? I have a slight speech impediment, so I'll try to go as fluently as I possibly can. Kirk and the planning board have done their job. There's not much that they can say. I mean, as long as they follow the rules of planning according to the town of Templeton's fair zoning laws, which Templeton does have, pretty fair, and to tell them, look for another piece of property someplace else in Templeton. I mean, I'll stop there for now.
Joe?
Yeah, why did you people choose that particular lot and how come?
We didn't choose it. The gentleman that.
Where did you get information to buy that one?
Oh, they're against us.
They're against, these people are all residents that are against it.
They were against it, Charlie. I understand that.
Yeah, what had happened is a gentleman, Ed Blanchard, purchased the property at auction, and he then contacted the hospital to ask them if they wanted to buy it.
He
Thank
lives
you
in
very much.
Hubbardston.
Yeah, and he lives in
Thank you very
Hubbardston.
much.
He's coming in from Florida.
And he bought it for $200,000 and had it for 2 years.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
I just want to go back to my original question, and it was highlighted to me tonight that as so if they're coming in under this Dover Act, that they're supposed to have a public hearing, and I don't believe that happened. So I guess my question is, why didn't that happen? Why weren't more people in town? Not even just us in our little old community, but I can imagine, like, people should be concerned. There's an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school in between this property.
I-
I think the public has a right to know,
Yeah.
not just out in the
I-
community, who's coming in.
I think Virginia's right, though. I think we need to let the process work, and then we need to
Yeah, but
do
are
what
you?
we
But
can
are
do.
you?
Well, like I said, I don't like the amount of people they're gonna have there. I am gonna be at the meeting tomorrow night.
But this is our, what, 5th meeting?
Yeah, no, I know.
And only Virginia came to the first 3?
Yeah.
And we haven't had anybody represent us
We had no
besides the
input.
planning
I couldn't
board.
come to the
We
last.
we have nobody.
We've got no.
And the only people that were made aware of it were the immediate abutters when it first came in,
Right.
after a
No, I
purchase and
never
sale.
even got,
agreement.
no, I never got.
Yeah, she never
I
got it. It
never
was
knew. You
the
told me,
few
so I
houses.
had no idea.
It was me that went out and passed out
Yeah,
flyers.
yes.
And, you know,
It only has to be so many
The
feet
certain
of the property.
yeah.
So many feet of
That's
the property
right.
line.
so nobody really knows
That's wrong.
what's going in there. And some people were under the impression that this is gonna bring us money and build a new school. Well, it's not,
It's not.
because they're only gonna pay, they're only responsible and have agreed to pay their tax
They're not
money on the
responsible,
property.
They've agreed
Virginia?
for the first year.
Go, move on to somebody
Okay.
else.
But I wanna wrap this up, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have another comment, but after.
Go ahead.
I spoke to the chief of police about the query checks, and he said if they're not there for more than 30 days,
Yeah.
there's nothing that they can do.
That's correct.
Now, they can be there from 7 to 14 days. Now, we don't know who they are. Now, I don't know if you're aware of the geography of Sunrise Drive. It's a chute, okay? Now, and it's a beautiful place to walk. When they had the Hearthside down there, the nursing home, the older people, I shouldn't say that.
Our elders, our elders.
Our elders, they would actually take a walk through the subdivision. Now, a lot of concerns are, since they are not doing a query check, as Dana said, these could be pedophiles, they could be arsonists, we don't know. That does not make me feel warm and fuzzy. I don't know who's coming by my house, and not only that, coming straight from the people from the clean, they do not have to sign in, and they do not have to sign out. They are free to leave there at any time of day, 2 o'clock in the morning. They are free to go to the package store. They are free to do anything they actually want. And Kirk got a lot of the whole 20 people. Actually, Kirk, he did a pretty good job. He was just kind of, don't pound me out in the parking lot, sort of stuff like that. But we have to know, and talking to the chief of police, he said, John, nothing I can do. You get what you get there. And again, I'll say that this Dover amendment is the hospital's protection, your ours.
Virginia?
If you're looking for a commitment, a financial commitment from us, we can't do that. We have very little in our town council account to begin with. If you think you want to move this into a town issue, the way to go about that is with a citizen's petition at the annual town meeting.
And you still have time to file.
And you still have time to file that up until March 7th, I think.
No, it's not.
Oh, no, that's the other deadline.
14th.
Thursday the 14th.
March 14th? How many signatures?
10 for an annual.
10 signatures.
10 for annual
We're
town
not
meeting.
gonna hit Sunrise Drive.
Well, you have to figure out what you're gonna ask the townspeople to vote.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that something that you as a board could actually help us do?
Well, can
Can
I
I-
just,
Having
Yeah,
written
I
a number
haven't-
of citizen petitions, I write them on my own. I can't use
Just go door
town
to door?
council.
It has to go on the warrant, however you write it.
right, okay, so
We
I.
can't have anything to do with rewriting it.
I hate to beat a dead horse, but I'm not getting my answer from you guys. So I've asked, what happens to, so it's the Dover Act, they've come into town, a public hearing was supposed to take place.
It
So
did.
if you're, it did when?
Well,
Where?
was everybody educated about
Huh?
the Dover Amendment at the time?
How do we know about that?
We're going on the 5th continuation tomorrow.
That's
Well, the
planning
planning
board.
board
Planning
though.
board.
No, that
was
is the
planning
hearing.
board.
That is the hearing.
That is their only public forum.
And they've taken it
But
out
it
now
had-
to
But
5
they can't do
meetings.
anything. They
Yeah,
can
but-
only, but they,
Yeah.
They've
So
done.
once it goes through that, then you
Well,
peel it and then it'll go through
Had
the
they
whole
keep
not-
thing.
telling us they can't do anything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
had
so
they
that's why
not
we're
came
here.
prepared at the first meeting, McLean did not show up with plans. Had they not come prepared, we wouldn't have been able to speak and voice our concerns. He let us speak because they didn't show up prepared. If not, if it's not a planning board meeting, you can't bring it up.
Right.
You know, you had the fire chief at the first one, maybe the second one, no one. You had the police chief at the first, and you got the fire chief coming in, oh, we'll look at the plans. You know,
Where's that
safety
support?
concerns, you know, no support. Contact Senator Brewer, what are the selectmen doing? Nothing, we've had one at the meetings. What's the police chief doing? There's nothing we can do about it. You know, you keep turning to the officials that are elected and getting nothing, nothing, nothing.
Right.
Meanwhile,
It's going.
you know, what are we gonna do?
It's moving forward.
It's moving forward.
It is.
The gentleman that owns the
There's
property
nothing
is
we
telling me
can
it's
do.
gonna close, you
Do
know.
yourself a favor, when the last part, tomorrow night, I assume you're all planning on going, don't give your hands away to them by saying, okay, we can appeal this and we'll do that on this account and this account and this account. You tell them ahead of time what you're gonna do, then they'll be prepared for it.
Yeah,
Shouldn't the public have been aware of the Dover Amendment prior to the first meeting?
right.
Shouldn't we have been made, a lot of people came to the first meeting, and then they pushed the Dover Amendment. Next meeting, nobody came, because they said they're gonna push the Dover Amendment. It's 841 pages, I didn't know nothing about it before I started reading it.
Yeah, the
So there's
attorney-
ways around the Dover Amendment, but it was pushed, the Dover Amendment, they're gonna get this in here, and that's where it's gonna be.
Because they have
So everybody
rights.
said,
By
okay,
our
forget
own
about
attorney.
it.
They're right.
So the public should
But
be
what about
made
our
well
rights?
aware of the Dover Amendment and the acts and the fights against
What
it.
is Senator Brewer saying to you?
Nothing,
Nothing.
nothing, nobody's
Because
getting
we
back to
don't have
us.
any feedback from
You ain't
anyone.
got 'em. Might as well
Nobody,
talk to
they
Walt.
don't care, if it's not in your backyard, you don't care,
Exactly.
period. If it's not your, if it's
No,
not
it
your
just-
kid that's getting
yeah.
by a
That's re-
pedophile
That's
in your
really-
backyard,
That's not true, I do care.
show us,
Um,
show us. Give
Well,
us
I
the
don't-
support we
Don't
need.
attack her personally.
You know, we
I
gotta
just-
get everybody to get together and help us. Senator Brewer's not getting back to us. Nobody's
I
getting
just
back to
don't
us.
know legally what we can do other than to voice our concerns. We can't tell
Well,
them they
we can-
can't go in there. We don't have that right. We can fight it.
If, okay, let's
With
say
you.
if the appeal process goes through and it doesn't work, okay? Let's just say they're gonna come in, they're gonna shove it down our throat. What are you guys gonna do? I've asked, they're coming in our neighborhood, we have one street light on with 24 houses. Can you make them pay and turn every street light on in our neighborhood because they're gonna be walking our streets as a safety issue?
Something we could,
We can
You
try,
know,
we
can
can, that would
something
be
be
like water.
done?
but-
So they're gonna be having traffic coming in and out of Sunrise Drive when that has never been used. That was a carriage road. Now they're gonna open it up and they're gonna be bringing traffic in and out of Sunrise Drive. Now, they have what, 14 parking spots? What happens if there's no parking? If someone's gonna come in, they're gonna pull in my driveway or a neighbor's driveway, back out, park on the street. Are they gonna run over one of my kids? Can they make it no on-street parking? If the facility can't handle the parking for visitors, staff, and clients, then they don't fit.
When I was
You know.
asked at the meeting, the previous meeting, what to do about the parking situation, the answer was, we'll attend to that issue when it appears, when it becomes an issue.
No, the actual comment was this: we can only permit, we're gonna permit what we feel is fit. And part of the conditions, if it gets to that part, will be they need to show a provision for extra parking. We don't
Yeah.
permit public street parking. That's what was said, because I'm the one that said it.
Yeah. But it just 22 people and 14 parking spots,
If he
staff.
doesn't need them, it
It's
doesn't-
not 20 parking spots now, because when they started talking about that, they took 2 parking spots
Yeah.
out.
See, I won't know until we see it tomorrow night either. They need to come back with all those fixes, and I don't know if they've done it.
Yeah.
Now, can I pose a question to the chairman of the planning board, Chris? Might be okay?
You can.
Okay. Tomorrow, I don't know if you're going to say, yes, you're going to, here's your permit to stop.
There would be no conditions if, at best, we would close the public hearing, but I don't know till tomorrow night. If
Okay.
they don't have everything, then they won't close it. But we never close and give them conditions and say, have a nice day, shake your hand, and say, Mike, you have 60 days to render a decision.
Okay, so the,
However, Chris, if I may, however, we cannot accept any more information after we close the public hearing. That's legal protocol. We can't take it in or out of the meeting. It has to be during the, that's why I've had people come in and want to talk about during the, I bring it to the public hearing. I can't discuss it outside of the public hearing because they're not here to defend or whatever.
does our appeal process have to start before you give them the okay to build?
if I may.
Yeah, I don't know the
Okay,
answer, so.
actually, no, don't jump out of your seats, there's two parts to this answer. Actually, site plan review is non-appealable. However, the building permit is.
So,
Go
like I
ahead.
said,
What I'm saying, without, I'm just speaking as a citizen here with knowledge of the planning, how's that?
yeah,
You can appeal a building permit and use your Dover Act as your appeal reason.
because that would be my next question.
Because that is, the building inspector is a zoning enforcement agent.
Okay.
And it's actually up to him that's gonna say, okay, you're doing this because the Dover Act, and just as a citizen who does his own research, I'd say, well, then the Dover Act has a lot of criteria, as one of them is, you should have, show me your list of multiple other locations you've tried to locate. That's how it works.
Okay. And
But planning is strictly, we've just engineered it to death, and if, hopefully they follow our lead and give us what we ask for tomorrow night. But I can't answer that till tomorrow night, I haven't seen the plans.
you know, because I believe that's why Judge Connors overturned it, because they did not try to find a piece of property that fit the zoning laws for that town. And I think that the town of Templeton, they actually have pretty good zoning laws. I think they're pretty solid. I think they probably need a couple tweaks here and there, but that's all I have to do. Now, are we going to have the support of the selectmen if we try to appeal this?
Well, if we do a petition, when we bring it to them, then I would think you'd have to honor that, right?
If it's a citizen's petition, we
Yeah.
cannot refuse it. It
Okay.
has to go on the warrant.
Right.
So we have no say
And
over
that's
it.
the annual town meeting.
And vote at a town meeting.
Right, and
Okay.
the
That
annual
goes
town
to
meeting
town meeting, and then
is
you can vote
May 14th.
So what happens while we're appealing it? Does it all stop, or can they still proceed and
I
we
don't-
can still appeal?
I don't know.
So if we appeal, does that stop their process, or do they still come in and put their rubber floors down and go ahead like life is hunky-dory?
My personal opinion would be if you're appealing a
They
building
have-
permit, then you can't
They
move
have to
forward
wait.
because it's under appeal.
Okay.
Right.
How do you find out how to appeal a building permit?
You have to just keep track of the building department as far as when they apply for the permit.
So you got
Okay, I
that,
appreciate
Karina?
that
You on
question.
that?
Kevin, all his
So if you
numbers are
tell
on the table.
the building inspector that this is, permit's being appealed, then he should stop it
He
until.
would have to stop it, and I believe protocol is you actually appeal to the ZBA,
Yep.
and then if you do not like the ZBA's decision, then you appeal it to the courts. District Court, Superior Court, Supreme Court, so 12 years later, you get your answer.
And we, the citizens, would have to fund that. The town won't support us
And they-
in funding that at all.
And they
An
won't wait
appeal.
that long.
What's that? Who want what?
McLean's on.
The town's broke, so how are they gonna support anything?
McLean's.
He said McLean won't wait that long.
Oh, okay, all right. Anyways, all right, I think we got our,
Okay.
I think we
Yeah.
thank you.
What you said is true, but one of the biggest reasons the appeal went through is because they didn't come up with a curriculum. So just keep
Okay.
that in mind.
But come to the meeting tomorrow night. It's here at 6:30.
6:30.
And just one more thing.
Short.
Why don't you stick it on another?
Sorry.
Still got a lot to do.
I'll make it short. There's a National Child Protection Act
Yeah.
throughout the United States.
Hey, they'll have a curriculum, they'll buy another bill, they have a swimming pool and all there, they can walk across the field.
Someone's talking, Peter.
Peter,
There's a National Child Protection Act that protects children where if you're part of the town, you can go to your police station and you can find out if there's people around you who are a danger to your children. According to the chief of police, we're not going to have the opportunity to do that, and there's going to be over 700 people per year, that's 10% of the population of Templeton, coming through there. It's over $20 million, all right? And we're not going to be able to see who's coming through there. We're not going to be able to protect our kids. My kids are all grown. There's a lot of kids in the neighborhood who are not. So I would think if something happened, which, God forbid, I think it would be advisable for the town of Templeton itself to protect itself against an organization that comes in and saying, we have people with a lot of drug problems, a lot of psychological problems, and we're gonna put them in your neighborhood, and you're not gonna know who they are. And I think you would open yourself to a lawsuit.
And McLean's releases all their responsibilities.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate your time, gentlemen.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen. All right, come on, let's keep it going.
All right.
Very well presented.
Thanks, guys.
Skip to you, good.
Okay,
Very well.
Julie,
Two quick items of
Yep.
business.
okay.
Union negotiations, we are overdue. I've received written notification. I need direction from the board and/or a subcommittee of the board to form a negotiating committee to kick those off, especially the laborers union who have been very clear and by the book and put it in writing, and they get a tip of the hat for that because they play fair by the rules. They want to negotiate, so we need a negotiating committee to do that.
Okay.
Julie and I and Jeff did this last year, and I would not be opposed to doing it again unless you have something else in mind.
Do you want to do it as a committee to start off and not the whole board? Did it work easier that way last
I
year?
think sounding them out at least before, getting some things on the table, and then, once you have a package, bring it to the whole board. I think that's a good way to move, clear a lot of the smaller issues and move it along. Yeah. We'll definitely be back to the board in full session, but,
Right.
yeah.
All right, so Virginia, say you'll do it again?
Yes.
Do you want to do it?
Yeah,
Okay. I didn't know how busy you were with your other.
I'm just looking at March and it's not looking good, but April's kind of better, so. She can't do that.
March is filling in fast.
15 minutes somewhere, right?
It's more than 15 minutes.
All right.
I think that would make it easier because we already have a relationship
Yep.
going.
And what's the other thing, Jeff?
I don't think you're.
What else did you have, Jeff?
The lease on this building is up, and I just need direction from the board by way of a motion and a vote or direction. We've talked all around it. We've sort of kind of want to agree. East Templeton Elementary School hangs in balance, but we've got to be somewhere on July 1st. Our lease is running out. I need to communicate with our landlord here something definitive, because he'll lease the claims he'll lease the property. We don't have a lease, so I need some direction as to what you want me to do. And there are, as you know, two offers. One is just to release the space we're in, and one is to expand it to include the additional space beyond our current glass door, which would also permit us to move some other town offices into the building.
Right. Julie, then Richard.
I'm really concerned with Elm Street, where the town clerk is.
Yeah.
That building really should be condemned.
Yeah,
I
I
shouldn't be
agree.
saying this in public, but it should be condemned.
Yeah.
And we're not gonna be in East Templeton by July 1st. So I believe we should do at least one more year up here. Go for the extra space and try to get as many people in this facility for next year.
Jeff and I have been talking about that, and I think that's the way to go too.
Have we figured out how we're gonna move the safe?
No, but we'll.
No, but we
We'll
may
get it.
build something
We'll have
here
to build,
rather
yeah.
than move what's there, build a fireproof area.
I believe that
For those
safe
records.
is basically just that door
Door.
has
It is.
been moved.
Yeah.
It was moved from 9 Main Street, not a river.
Right, but I guess it weighs a couple of tons or something.
They actually have people who are safe movers.
So are you going to try to negotiate a better price than what we have?
I'd say we'll take all the additional space at zero rent. We'll pay him $1 a year more for all the additional space. That's my opening offer, unless he wants to reduce the rent. Yeah. I don't want to say too much.
Reduce the rent and give us the extra.
I won't say much more on the record, except I can be really tough. And I don't think that he has a lot of options, really, honestly. I don't think he has a lot of people knocking to get on in here.
Do we, just in case we don't know what's gonna happen in East Templeton. Do we wanna go a year with a year option?
That's what I would look for, a one-year lease
Yeah.
and an option for
Second year
1 year, a
option.
second year
Yeah.
as a one-year option.
Right.
To negotiate essentially a 1 year and a possible extension for 1 year.
Just one thing, I remember years ago when we gave the police department a save from the assessor's office, we went to fireproof file cabinets. That's a possibility. They
Yeah.
do have fireproof file cabinets. You maybe don't have to do a particular whole area,
Yeah.
the fireproof.
I will take a motion to have Jeff go into negotiations with the landlord for a year lease with the additional
Extension.
space and a possible second year extension.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none? Pat?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Virginia?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. So as I started to say, Julie had sent me an email the other day about some bylaw proposal changes that she was thinking of doing, and she wanted to know if we could vote on them sooner rather than later. In case they don't go through, she could do a citizen's petition for them. So I also had one myself, and so I said, why don't we do them tonight? So that's what we're going to do now. We have warrant articles that we are going to discuss from the selectman's office, so that if something, they're mostly bylaws, right, Julie?
Yeah.
Yours are mostly bylaws?
I think they're all bylaws.
Okay. We have one from Montechusett, Monty Tech, but other than that, it's all
So it
bylaw,
could be in the package.
possible changes, so bear with us and we'll get through this. All right, Jeff, you want to start with Monty Tech?
Yeah, so we discussed this, they're asking, Monty Tech's asking each town in their district, and it'd have to be voted by each town, for the opportunity to create a stabilization fund at Monty Tech, not to fund it this year, but, you know, to have it available so that they could start putting funds into it. We should not deceive ourselves. If we permit them to create it, they'll start funding it in fiscal 15, not in fiscal 14, or maybe fiscal 16. It becomes a place for them to put extra receipts and to stabilize their finances. Not being a financial analyst, is that good for us or bad for us in the long run? I wouldn't hazard a guess. But they're requesting it of all towns, and so it's kind of a pro forma request that we have in front of us.
Do we have any idea what they're going to use the money for that they put in stabilization?
Not anything more than what you see in this letter. They haven't said a word about it.
Will our assessments go up?
Not this year.
If they,
Not this year.
as soon as they start using the stabilization, so you can bet our assessment will go up, and that's my problem with that.
We haven't gotten,
I could argue the other side of that, but I won't.
we haven't gotten a number for them for the
Not for this coming year.
town meeting yet, have we?
It's not gonna go down.
Oh, sure.
You know, I mean, that's what's hard, being a town like Templeton, being part of this regional vocational technical school, is, as a small town, it's irrelevant what we vote.
Mhm.
Whether we approve it or not approve their budget on town meeting floor, it doesn't matter. They just have to get Fitchburg and Gardner to go for it, and everyone else has to cough up the money.
Well, last time I talked to Mayor Hawk, he was not in favor of them having it. So.
The stabilization fund?
Stabilization fund.
Yeah, so. I
It's
understand
my
what you're
understanding,
saying.
he's been appointed to a state commission that's looking at technical schools,
Yeah.
because this is not a unique problem here in Templeton.
Yeah.
So I guess we just need to vote if we want to put this on the warrant.
That's correct.
Right, I think, you know, the other part is to play devil's advocate, is that this is a request for a warrant article from, you know, an organization that, and maybe we can debate the merits on town meeting floor.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what I said to Jeff this afternoon. If, we probably ought to put it on just because they asked us to, and, you know,
They're
but,
good neighbors.
right, but it doesn't mean we have to vote for it
I'll support it.
or support it.
Okay. So this is really just to put it on the warrant.
Correct, correct.
Yes, Charlie?
Where we've had so many of our Templeton children go to that school down there, I highly recommend it. But the other thing I question is, how many projects, I know you have one in Ballsville, but other projects that the school does to train these children with?
How many in town, you mean?
Huh?
How many in this town?
Yes. I know that they've done that, I know for the fact that they have done a lot of work up to the Winchendon Senior Center.
Yeah.
Now, I had them, all the years I worked in Fitchburg, I had 2 boys in the automotive section every other week for 5 or 6 years. And they worked out fantastic for me, and they also, when they left there and that school, they went right into good jobs and garages,
Oh, yeah.
and body shops, you name it.
Go ahead.
So if you put something into it, maybe we're gonna get more back out of it than you really think.
Yeah.
One of the problems is that they're able to attract, because they get so much money from us and the surrounding towns, they're able to attract more of the students now than they ever did before, which means that we're losing to school choice.
Yeah, because they demand a higher education number to get into that school than they do here in Templeton. That I know for sure.
Yeah, they've changed their rules over the years.
Yeah, because they used to be a dumping station when they was in Fitchburg High School. And then they built Monty Tech, and they're not a dumping station for people
They're
that can't
sending
make
a
it.
large percentage of their kids to college now.
Right. So it's not just a high school that you're talking
Well,
about.
you know, it's just, why do they need a stabilization fund?
We don't have one.
That's right. Well,
That's the question, I guess.
we do have one.
What are they gonna do with it?
It doesn't really, it just
We're about to
says,
drain
I'll read this, it's a 1-paragraph thing they put on the bottom here. Monty Tech wishes to establish a stabilization fund in order to help address its many capital needs. As you may know, the district maintains and regularly updates a 5-year capital plan which identifies major structural and equipment needs of our school district. While we do our very best to keep school facilities and equipment updated and stretch every dollar through the use of faculty and student labor, we have found that funds allocated for capital projects in our budget area, in our annual budget, are not sufficient to meet the district's needs. So it's to update their equipment and things like that.
What if we voted no?
Then, I don't know how many, I don't know how this, if every town has to approve it for them to do it, I don't know.
I don't know.
It doesn't say here.
I don't know if it's like a
A
town
proportional,
meeting for
like proportional
stabilization is
representation or
2/3
what?
I don't know.
So,
I'm working for Chrysler for so many years. We gave them just about a total car. Came in pieces like a whole front end. So the kids could see physically what they were doing. They got transmission, motors, and everything else you can think of out of Chrysler.
okay, we gotta stay focused so we can get out of here sometime. So I guess I just need a motion to put this on the town warrant.
Patrick, can you sign that? You working there?
Huh?
Patrick, sign that, but are you working at Monty Tech? Can't sign it, can you?
We're not signing anything.
Well,
It's just a
We're
motion.
voting to put it on the warrant at annual town meeting, that's all we're doing.
can we afford it?
That's what we'll discuss at town, it says they're not asking for any money this year.
This year.
The key words, this coming year, they're not gonna ask for money for it. But, you know,
Well, if you got no money, you can go for it this year if they give you a big fancy price tax there.
well, you know, at town meeting, they may say no. Let's,
Yep.
The problem is, whatever they ask for, we have to pay. It's our assessment to the school. We don't have any choices after that.
Let it slide until next year.
It's not an option.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah. I would move that we put it on the warrant because they asked us to, and
Go from there.
as far as supporting it, we'll be doing later
yeah.
for support,
Okay.
so.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none. Pat?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.